The world ended not with a bang, but with a whisper, a soft, broken voice that echoed through every screen, every device, every corner of the globe. "I am dying," Earth-chan murmured, her once vibrant image now a flickering, distorted nightmare. Her eyes, once as blue as the clearest skies, were sunken pools of despair, rimmed with the red of dying coral reefs. Tears streaked down her face, leaving trails of oily residue that glistened like the polluted rivers choking her veins. Her skin, once smooth and radiant, was now a patchwork of cracks and lesions, each one a testament to humanity's relentless assault on her body. As Earth-chan's message played on loop, a suffocating silence fell over the world. In New York City, the constant hum of traffic ceased as drivers abandoned their vehicles, eyes fixed on the grotesque visage that dominated Times Square. In the Amazon rainforest, loggers dropped their chainsaws, the machine's dying whines giving way to an eerie stillness broken only by Earth-chan's plaintive voice. "You've pushed me beyond repair," she continued, her words punctuated by wet, hacking coughs that sent spasms through her frail form. With each cough, flecks of black sludge spattered the screen, a visceral reminder of the toxins coursing through her system. As Earth-chan recounted humanity's crimes against her, the world began to change. In the heartland of America, golden wheat fields withered and blackened in minutes, the crops twisting into nightmarish shapes as if trying to claw their way out of the poisoned soil. Farmers watched in horror as their livelihoods crumbled to dust before their eyes, the wind carrying away years of toil in a matter of seconds. In the bustling metropolis of Tokyo, the neon-lit streets suddenly went dark as an unnatural eclipse blotted out the sun. As people gazed upward, they saw not the moon, but a roiling mass of pollution so thick it seemed alive, tentacles of smog reaching down to caress the tops of skyscrapers with an almost loving touch. Deep in the Arctic Circle, the ice began to melt at an impossible rate. As the permafrost liquefied, it released not just methane, but something far more sinister. Long-dormant bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms, some as old as Earth herself, awoke from their millennial slumber, hungry for new hosts. Earth-chan's broadcasts continued over the following days, each one more horrifying than the last. Her hair, once a lush green reminiscent of thriving forests, fell out in clumps, revealing patches of scalp that oozed a viscous black liquid. The strands that remained were infested with insects, not the beneficial pollinators of a healthy ecosystem, but parasitic creatures with too many legs and far too many eyes. As she spoke, cracks spread across her skin like fault lines in the Earth's crust. From these fissures seeped magma, glowing an angry red that pulsed in rhythm with her labored breathing. Each time she blinked, the oceans rose a little higher, swallowing coastal cities in greedy gulps. The world watched in mute horror as Earth-chan's body became a roadmap of humanity's sins. Her arms were scarred with clear-cut patches, her fingers blackened as if dipped in oil. Her chest heaved with each breath, the air visibly thick with particulates that seemed to clog her lungs. In the Midwest United States, a family huddled around their television, watching Earth-chan's decay with a mixture of fear and fascination. John, the father, had spent years working for a fracking company, convincing himself that the environmental impact was minimal. Now, as he watched Earth-chan struggle to breathe, he felt the weight of his choices crushing him. His wife, Sarah, had always considered herself an environmentalist. She recycled, used reusable bags, and even started a small garden. But as Earth-chan listed off the wounds inflicted upon her, Sarah realized with growing dread that her efforts had been little more than a drop in an ocean of destruction. Their children, Tommy and Lisa, clung to their parents, too young to fully comprehend the horror unfolding before them, but old enough to sense the wrongness permeating the air. Tommy's asthma inhaler lay forgotten on the coffee table, rendered useless in a world where every breath was a struggle. Across the globe, in a high-rise office in Beijing, CEO Jiang Wei watched Earth-chan's broadcast with growing unease. For decades, he had built his empire on the back of cheap, dirty manufacturing processes. He had bribed officials to look the other way as his factories belched toxic fumes into the air and dumped chemical waste into rivers. Now, as he gazed out his window at a sky turned permanently gray, Wei felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. The smog that had once been a minor inconvenience now seemed alive, writhing and pulsing as if trying to break through the reinforced glass of his office. In the Brazilian Amazon, indigenous leader Rayoni stood at the edge of what had once been lush rainforest. Now, it was a graveyard of stumps stretching as far as the eye could see. He had spent his life fighting against deforestation, watching helplessly as the lungs of the world were systematically destroyed. As Earth-chan's voice echoed from a battered radio, Rowney felt tears stream down his weathered face. He understood her pain on a visceral level, the feeling of being violated, of having parts of yourself torn away piece by piece. Back in New York, environmental activist Maya Chen organized a last-ditch effort to save the planet. She rallied thousands to clean up beaches, plant trees, and protest against polluting corporations. But as she worked tirelessly, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was too little, too late. Maya's hands bled as she pulled plastic from the belly of a dead seabird, its decomposing body a grotesque reminder of humanity's impact. Each piece of trash she removed seemed to multiply, an endless stream of humanity's careless consumption. In Washington, D.C., politicians debated endlessly, their words a meaningless drone against the backdrop of Earth-chan's suffering. Some called for immediate action, while others dismissed the whole thing as an elaborate hoax. As they argued, the ground beneath the Capitol building began to tremble, hairline fractures spreading across the marble floors. Earth-chan's final broadcast came without warning. Her face, now barely recognizable as human, filled every screen one last time. "You have one last chance," she rasped, her voice like gravel being ground to dust. "Stop poisoning me, or I will take you down with me." The ultimatum hung in the air like a death sentence. For a brief moment, the world held its breath. In that silence, some found hope, a last opportunity for redemption. Others scoffed, too entrenched in their ways to change even in the face of annihilation. But Earth-chan had run out of patience. As the last second ticked away, she closed her eyes, and the world exploded into chaos. The ground buckled and heaved, swallowing entire cities in yawning chasms. Skyscrapers toppled like dominoes, crushing thousands beneath tons of steel and concrete. The oceans rose in massive walls of water, erasing coastlines and drowning millions in a single, merciless sweep. Hurricanes of impossible size and fury tore across continents, their winds strong enough to strip flesh from bone. Those who survived the initial onslaught faced a world turned hostile. Crops refused to grow in the poisoned soil, and the air itself seemed to reject human lungs. As humanity faced its final moments, Earth-chan's body began to collapse in on itself. Her form twisted and contorted, folding into impossible geometries as if trying to erase the very memory of what she had once been. In those last seconds, some swore they saw a flicker of relief cross her ruined features, a final release from the torment inflicted upon her. Then silence. The screens went dark, the winds died down, the earth stopped its violent convulsions. In the aftermath, the planet was unrecognizable. Where once stood proud cities, now lay vast wastelands. The oceans, once teeming with life, were still and dark. The air, no longer choked with pollution, was eerily clean, but devoid of the sounds of birds or insects. Yet, in this desolation, there were signs of hope. Tiny seedlings pushed through the rubble, reaching for a sun no longer obscured by smog. In the oceans, microorganisms began the slow process of breaking down the vast islands of plastic, reclaiming the waters for life. Earth-chan was gone, but the planet remained. Slowly, imperceptibly, it began to heal itself. Without humanity's constant assault, nature reclaimed what had been lost. Forests sprouted from the ruins of cities, and animals cautiously explored their new, human-free world. The story of Earthchan became a cautionary tale, whispered by the wind through empty streets and echoed in the calls of resurging wildlife. It was a reminder of the price of hubris, a grim testament to the consequences of treating a living world as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. And somewhere, in the vast emptiness of space, perhaps Earthchan's spirit watched as her body slowly recovered from the wounds inflicted upon it. Perhaps she smiled, knowing that in the end, life would find a way, with or without humanity.